What's up everyone, it's Kadi with MoneyVest. So in this video, I'm going to be going over another really important concept when it comes to psychology of investing and money. And this is going to be another tutorial that is going to be available on our course, but I'm making it publicly available to the entire audience on YouTube as well, just to give you a bit of an idea and a bit of a sense on what type of topics and what are certain things that we talk about in our course related to the psychology of investing. These are very timeless lessons which are going to, in my opinion, help you tremendously when it comes to money over the long term, which you just cannot ignore if your end goal is to achieve financial fulfillment and financial freedom. Our focus on the course is very much towards financial fulfillment, because at the end of the day, I really want you all to be fulfilled with where you are financially, as opposed to getting freedom. Of course, we want freedom, but my focus mostly in the course is related to time freedom and financial fulfillment as opposed to financial freedom, because that term can very much be misplaced sometimes. That I really want you guys to have time freedom. So in order to wake up and do whatever you want with your time, and at the same time be fulfilled with what you're doing and of course where you are financially. So that's going to be the main topic and main course sort of message. But in this video, I want to add on to that and of course talk a little bit about one very important concept when it comes to money, and that is related to debt. So I hope you all enjoy it. And again, if you want full access to the entire course, the link's going to be down below. We've got a 50% discount right now. So the Psychology of Investing, Money and Markets course, you can come down here, take a look at the entire curriculum, all the different courses and the sections that we have, the tutorials. I feel there's a lot of value in this because these are my life's work when it comes to time and money. You can also preview this one. So Time and Money, Crack This Code. I've read a lot of books on finance and investing, and this is literally my entire life's worth of experience and again, analysis and understanding of different things. So you can also watch this tutorial that's going to be available on the website. Time and Money, Crack This Code, super important. And right now we've got a 50% discount if you want to get access to all the other ones. Coupon code LAUNCH available until the end of this month. So let's dive right into it. And today's topic is going to be on debt and why it is so important to use this wisely. So the first thing that we have to understand is, what is debt, right? Debt in its pure self, pure form, is a sum of money that is owed by the borrower to the lender. Okay, it's a liability to the borrower and an asset to the lender. That is, in a nutshell, what debt is all about. It's a sum of money, could be whatever money amount, right? Could be the principal, however much we're talking about. And it is owed by the borrower to the lender. So if I give you money as a loan, it's a debt, right? For you, it's a debt because you owe me that money. You're the borrower, I'm the lender. It's an asset for me because you're going to be paying a certain interest on that money. And it's a liability for you because you're paying every month whatever interest there is. So it's really important to understand that there are two different types of debt, okay? And those are bad debt and good debt. And these are things that, again, were never taught in school. These are things that were never taught to us. There was never a personal finance course. There was never a personal finance curriculum in school that teaches us what is the difference between good debt and bad debt. And that's why we have a big problem related to credit card debt. Over $1 trillion debt in the United States, and even in India. Now the situation's getting a little bit out of hand because people have now access to buy now, pay later services, credit cards, and so many different offers that credit card companies use to lure you into spending and of course taking advantage of the highest possible level of interest debt there is, which is credit card debt. So it's really important for me to, again, spread this message and for you to understand how important it is to use this wisely. So it's a tool, when used, is going to be super advantageous, right? So it's an instrument, it's another vehicle in the market that's available to all of us, right? All of us have access to debt, but there's two different types of them. And when utilized in a more wise manner, when utilized in a smart way, can really be advantageous to our net worth, to our financial freedom and fulfillment. But when not used well, it can really be disastrous and can help and can basically make us fall into what's called a debt trap. And that's the whole idea behind this tutorial, is to help you better understand the difference between the two and how to kind of go about looking at debt from a more money standpoint, from an understanding of how to utilize it. So when it comes to good debt versus bad debt, okay, it can be categorized into assets and liabilities as well. So good debt is known as something that you are spending money or borrowing money on, which is considered as an asset and is going to increase your income or earnings potential. A bad debt, on the other hand, is considered borrowing money for something that is a known liability, right? It is something that is a liability and you're spending money on that by borrowing it, and it's going to depreciate in value and it's going to make your life miserable. In other words, it's going to maybe upgrade your lifestyle, right? You're going to look very rich, you're going to look very high value, but in a nutshell, it is essentially spending money on things that you may not necessarily need in order to fund a lifestyle for people that may not really care about it, and you are doing it with very, very high levels of debt, right? So good examples are, of course, buying a super expensive car, a luxury car, spending, on, luxury items, expensive items, by utilizing high levels of credit card debt, which is, again, charged at the highest rate at over 25%, which is quite insane. But good debt examples could be borrowing money to buy a home, which is an asset and is considered to be a very nice appreciable asset over time. So in other words, real estate, investing in a business which you know for a fact is going to be a good business. You've done your research, you've done your planning, and it's going to grow over the next, let's say, 3, 5, 10, 20 years out. You've done the research and the planning, or spending money on your education, getting a degree, getting proper training in certain skill level, which you know for a fact is going to increase your earnings potential by the time you graduate and have acquired that skill. So it's really important to distinguish between good debt and bad debt. So bad debt is high interest rate debt to fund liabilities, absolutely the worst, which is auto loans, credit cards, luxury goods, expensive phones, and living an expensive lifestyle. And a good debt can be considered as a low interest rate debt to fund assets or future earnings potential. Home loan, education loan, business loan, loan to invest in assets are good examples of good debt versus bad debt. So the idea, of course, is to always use this as a tool, which is a tool. At the end of the day, debt is available to all of us, like I said, and it's a tool which can be utilized in both good ways and bad ways. And our goal is to use it in good ways. It's to build wealth. It's there to leverage your lifestyle so that you can actually create financial fulfillment and freedom over the long term and not create financial ruin for the long term. Because if you're using it to buy a lot of really expensive things or phones and luxury items or cars and whatnot, and you're creating a lot of liabilities by using high interest rate debt and you're using bad debt, it can really create a lot of stress over the long term because you'll have to continue to fund that lifestyle. And since liabilities are the worst because they are depreciating in value, they're basically you owe money for liabilities, it's not the most wise decision to make with the money. So what I've done here is that I've essentially put together a nice table to help you better understand that not all bad debts or good debts are created equally. I know there's a lot of different circumstances when it comes to money for different people from different walks of life, from different backgrounds and different cultural upbringings. And there can be different circumstantial issues or situations with people, like I said, from all over the world. So not all bad debts or good debts are created equally. But this should give you a bit of an idea, a bit of a sense on how to approach it and how I personally approach it. Because I got a question in our Discord yesterday asking if I've paid off all my student loans. I've got student loans. I use those loans to get into a university in New York in the US. I got my degree in finance and I use that to fund my education. It was a pretty expensive loan, right? So I've mentioned this before, almost $100,000 in student loans. And I have paid those down significantly, down to about $25,000 to as much as I think $30,000 is the principal balance that's left. Now, the way I did this was essentially paying off my highest interest debt first, right? Because of the high levels of interest. I was getting charged 8 to as much as 10% interest on one of the notes, one of the loans, and I paid that off first. And the loan that I have now is averaging about 5%, 5 to 6%, because I've got a loan at 4% and then I've got another loan which is around 6.5%. So it's averaging about 4.5 to 5% between those two loans. And to me, it's kind of like in the mid interest rate range, right? It's not super high, it's not super low either. It's kind of like in the middle. And yes, I do still want to prioritize paying that off. But there's also opportunity cost involved with paying off that loan, which I'll get to that in the next slide. But when it comes to acquiring capital, when it comes to acquiring debt, right? When it comes to, let's say that you're going out there to acquire debt, acquire money, acquire capital, I think this is the table which is a good representation of how you should go about it, right? So like I said, not all bad debts or good debts are created equally. So if you are looking at acquiring capital or money or debt, if it's a high interest debt, you need to absolutely avoid it if you are looking to use that to buy a liability. Absolutely avoid high interest rate debt to buy a liability. What I mean by that is credit card is a very, very high interest rate debt, right? So a high interest debt, and let's say that you're using a credit card to buy an expensive, super expensive phone or a luxury item, which could be like a fashion designer bag or a luxury clothing or something. For a fact, we know that the value of that item is going to depreciate. It's going to go down. So you've got a double loss, right? You not only have a high interest rate debt, but you've also got a depreciating liability, right? So you absolutely need to avoid that at all cost. Even with mid interest rate liability, I would try to avoid that as much as I can. Right? I would try to avoid it. Like even if I'm getting, let's say, a 7 to 8% loan, I would still not want to invest that money into a liability. That's just a no-go for me personally. And if you're able to get a low interest rate on a potential liability, I think that's the only time it is okay. It is okay. It's still not the best case scenario, but it's still okay. So I'll give you an example. If you walk into an Apple store and they tell you, we're giving away the new iPhone at 0% interest for the first 24 months, right? Let's say for the next 24 months at 0% interest, you can buy the brand new iPhone. That's a smart decision because you're not paying anything upfront. You're getting a 0% interest. You're not getting charged any interest on a brand new iPhone, even though it's a liability. We know the iPhone's value is going to go down in the next 2 to 3 years as new models come out, but it's a 0% interest. You're not paying any interest. So it's a smart decision to then be like, okay, that's great. That's fantastic. Why not buy a new phone? I'm not putting up all the capital right now, so I can use that capital to maybe invest in the markets, and I'm not getting charged any interest, 0%. That's fantastic. Let me go ahead and upgrade my phone. Same thing is true. Let's say that you've got a great deal. If you're buying, let's say, things on Amazon, right, and they give you huge savings, right, even though these are liabilities. In other words, you're buying certain bags or clothes or whatever it is, and you're getting huge deals, huge savings. It makes sense because you're saving. You're looking for the best deals, right? So you're getting a very, very low interest rate, or you're saving on your cost immediately with the savings and the discounts. So it makes a lot of sense. Okay. Now, when it comes to assets, obviously, if you want to acquire capital at a low to mid interest rate, absolutely go ahead with it. It makes a lot of sense because if you're able to buy a home at 2% interest, that's fantastic, right? A lot of people financed their homes back in 2020, 2021 when the rates were really low. And they were able to lock in 2%, 3% for the 30-year fixed. That's kind of like the golden era, right? That's fantastic because you're able to buy an amazing asset at a really, really low interest rate debt. So that is the definition of good debt. You're able to use debt to buy an asset at a really low interest rate. So that is low to mid interest rate. At a high interest rate, again, then the question then becomes, does the asset generate enough interest to overcome the cost of debt, right? So that is a very, very important discussion that I think a lot of people need to have themselves, that whatever asset that I'm investing in, so for example, let's say that I acquire, same example, let's just go over to a home. Let's say that I want to buy a house at a low interest rate of 2 to 3%. It makes a lot of sense. The numbers make a lot of sense because my payment's going to be a lot lower versus, let's say now, the interest rate environment, 7 to 8%. So we're in a high interest rate environment. Does it make sense to buy a home now, right? So again, you got to run the numbers, you got to run the financials and figure out, okay, this is going to be my payment every month with the higher interest rates. If I can afford it, then totally cool. In a few years, I can refinance, whatever the case might be in the next few years. But the discussion needs to be there. Like, you need to figure out the financials. How much income can you generate through rent? So that's a discussion. That's a numbers that you have to run for your own market, for your own plan that you're looking for. But the idea here is, if you are looking to acquire capital, if you're looking to tap into the vehicle, which is debt, if you're looking to tap into debt, make sure that you avoid high interest liability, mid interest liability, and only in low interest liability is where I feel comfortable personally to be like, okay, I can splurge a little bit on this because I'm not paying that much in debt, right? So let's say that I want to buy a car. I'd be more interested in either buying it all out cash, because that's the best ROI that I'm getting if I need a car, right? Or I'd be looking at really, really low interest rate auto loans, or some type of deals need to be there in order for me to be very much attractive towards buying a liability, right? Which is a car. And that's how I am. I know that a lot of people may not be like me. A lot of families may not think like me, but that's how I am. It's like, I'm always looking for deals. I'm always looking for good deals and where I can spend a lot less money to get a best deal in the market. But when it comes to investing in assets, then yes, acquisition of capital and debt can be done in a way that, okay, I'm acquiring debt at 2%, 3%, 4%. I'm investing in this asset where I can generate 8%, 9%, 10%. So that differential is very good. It gives me the leverage, and that will be the definition of good debt. So when it comes to payoff, it's a little bit different. So in this example, we're not acquiring capital, but instead we're paying off existing debt. I think this is what most people need to prioritize in their life. So if you are watching this video and if you got a really high interest debt, I think that should be the first focus for everyone to fix their financial life and to be on the right path, is to pay off all high interest liability, all high interest debt. And I'm talking credit card debt, auto loans, whatever liability loans you have that are way above 8%, 9%, 10% should be paid off first. I think that should be the main focus for most people with a high interest debt. If you've got a mid-interest to low-interest debt, it can be put off if you're confident that you can utilize that capital instead of paying off your debt into something that you can invest in assets and generate a higher rate of return. So to give you a simple example is, why have I decided to not pay off my 4.5%, 5% student loans where I have the ability to do that? I can literally just take out cash from my bank account, pay off all my debt tomorrow at 4%, 4.5%, and just be done with it. That's an option that I can utilize, but that would not be necessarily the most smart decision for me, because if I take the same capital and I invest it in the market, on average, I can generate 8 to as much as 10%. So if I'm paying off my debt at 4%, when in fact I could invest that money and generate an 8%, 10% per year, that would be a much smarter decision, because I'm able to generate more from my capital than just be able to pay off a 4% interest rate loan. And that's the whole idea behind leverage. And it works even better if you've got that loan at a low interest rate and somebody else is paying for it, which is a mortgage, which is a home loan, right? So you buy a house at 2%, 3% interest, and your tenant is paying down the mortgage for you, is paying down the loan for you, is buying equity into the home for you, while you can utilize capital in other assets and use that capital to invest in other assets. So that again comes under the conditions of good debt versus bad debt. So there's definitely a lot of discussions around opportunity cost and how to utilize existing capital, whether to pay down liabilities or whether to invest in assets. That's always going to be a discussion. There's been a lot of questions around it. I've got $100,000. Should I pay off my loans or should I invest in the market? It is very much person to person, because there's also a level of stress that comes with having liabilities and debt. So if you're not comfortable, if you're struggle sleeping at night knowing that you've got $100,000 liability and debt, you're not comfortable with markets volatility, then in your case, regardless of how low or cheap that interest is on the debt, it makes more sense to pay it off completely so you can actually be stress-free. Now you don't owe any money to anyone, you're getting a good night's sleep, and now you can start focusing on building your assets moving forward. So it really depends on person to person. There's no right or wrong answer here, and that's what I've mentioned in the tutorials in our psychology course as well. There's no right or wrong answer. It's really what works for you. It's really just what works for you. If you're comfortable paying off all your loans regardless of how cheap the interest rate is, that's totally fine as well. It really depends on what you're comfortable with. So the bottom line and the lesson that I want you to take away from this video is acquire low interest rate debt, which is, in other words, good debt to buy and invest in assets that can generate income or create that earnings potential, and avoid or pay off high interest rate debt, i.e. bad debt, to buy liabilities that keep you from achieving financial freedom and fulfillment. So that's the whole message and the idea in this video, because the latter is really going to put you in misery and financial ruin, and the former is going to create a lot of financial fulfillment. It's going to create that financial freedom, and it's going to free up a lot of time for you long term. So hope you all enjoyed this video and a complete update on this concept. Again, if you want to get access to the entire course and watch a lot of other tutorials, which I think are going to add a lot of value, first of all, I think you should watch this, Time and Money, Crack This Code. Super important video. Link's going to be down below. Love to have you on board. Coupon code LAUNCH. And that's going to give you a 50% discount until the end of this month. As always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.